Case of the Mondays, am I right?
Yeah.
The Mondays, yes.
Am I right?
And speaking of Mondays, we are here. We're just a few friends chatting about E3. It is post E3-ish, with any rumors of any other sort of directs from a certain over 100-year-old company aside.
That plays by their own rules. They're cool. They do their own thing.
Yeah.
You know
Right.
what? Like Nintendo, gonna Nintendo. That's basically like how I always say it.
Yeah.
Video games.
We are on a post E3 hangover to a certain degree, and we're here to kind of talk about sort of some lingering thoughts from what we thought of yesterday's Xbox Bethesda Showcase, and we're going to talk about kind of what we thought of E3/non-E3 in general. But hi, I'm Steve Saylor, aka BlindGamerSteve. You all know me on this channel anyway. But for once again, I have some amazing co-hosts with me, and we have Camille. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Muted myself right before my introduction. Hello, I'm Camille. I'm a friend. I think that's my intro from now
That
on.
is pretty much your intro, yeah. Camille,
Yeah.
you're a
I like
friend.
that.
Yeah.
I respect it.
Yeah. Steve?
Hello, Steve Vegvari here. Yeah, a freelance writer, the games industry, and also a friend.
And last but not least, the person who had a fire alarm.
Yeah, right up until the moment we started filming. I'm Caboose. You may have seen me on the YouTubes. How's everybody doing? I don't know if am I a friend?
You are a
Yes.
friend.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm a friend.
Is he? In discussion.
Well, he's not a friend of Kojima, but he's a friend.
Well, exactly. There
Which,
you go.
speaking of which, obviously we had that. That was like we did talk about it a little bit. And if you haven't checked out the video of us talking about just when we were live at the Toronto Fan Fest watch party, you can be able to check that out. I'll probably have like a card somewhere up here in the top corner for you to be able to check that out if you missed it. But yeah, like there was some pretty big kind of announcements from yesterday. And it's already, the internet is kind of split on whether or not they liked a few of them, which was kind of, I don't know. It's like, did y'all watch the same showcase that we did?
Yeah.
It was good. A strong showcase.
So now that the dust has settled, what are your kind of now like thoughts of the Xbox Showcase now that we've kind of had sort of a day to kind of like compress and sort of think about it? Camille, we started with you.
Okay. Honestly, it was a strong showcase, I think, considering the expectations that E3, Key 3, Really 3, whatever we're calling this time of year has. It was a tough time, a couple of years for everyone in the world, including developers, that had to adjust how they are creating games, how they're teasing games that are highly anticipated. And that sets deadlines back. So I think this showcase really set the expectation. This is what you're going to be able to play with in the next 12 months. They acknowledge that there's obviously those big titles that fans are wondering about, fans want to see, but off the top, Phil Spencer's like, this is the 12 months that you're going to get.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
a little taste of some extra stuff, but like mostly the 12 months of it. I appreciate that because then it allows them to really focus on what they're going to show fans, and realistically what fans like a good showing of like what fans could actually have their hands on, because that's also the frustrating thing around E3 time is sometimes you see trailers and it's like 2055.
Yeah.
Put that on my deathbed, so I love that we got dates here, and this also solidified the value. I don't know how they keep doing this. The value that Game Pass has. They're
Yeah.
more value in it, and we're really pushing our PC Game Pass as well. So I thought it was a good showing.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah.
Steve, what about you?
Yeah, coming out of it, I was already positive. We talked about it in the previous video, but now that I've had like a little bit more time to think about it, and to be honest, I came home and I actually rewatched a lot of it on like my 4K LG TV, because as great as it was to be like in the theater as an experience, I do feel like some of like, the color contrasting wasn't 100%, or like the HDR of some of these videos, because it's being projected on a large screen and everything.
The
Being able to see
well.
the
True.
sounds too.
Yeah.
But going back and especially like the Redfall trailer,
Yeah.
the Starfield trailer, seeing it in 4K on a TV, like how you're supposed to be seeing it, or like how you'll end up playing it, way better. And just in terms of like the production value, I really enjoyed it. Again, to Camille's point, I think Xbox, while I was watching it, Xbox kind of solidified exactly what I want out of these directs or like these showcases, which is give me gameplay. I'm totally over just here's a CGI trailer, just doing like a tone piece for the game. No, I want to see that's cool and everything, but I want to see the gameplay.
Yeah.
Going through the list of like so many of these games, it was all just here's gameplay. And even if it wasn't like in the moment, it was in-engine stuff that like you can expect to be playing when the game releases. And then the other thing is just having that confined timeline of like, no, this is 12 months. That's all we need to know, right? Like we don't need to know. Get excited for 2025 and play, Perfect Dark. That's cool to know that it's in development, but I don't need to see it on the main stage during E3.
Yeah.
I came away from this one way more hyped to know that like Starfield has 1,000 worlds because they're at the point of development where they can show off. Like when they pulled back and they're like, here's the one solar system and here's the other, 100. I was like, that's really cool. Like you get way more of a pop from me by showing that during a showcase like that than just, here's a Perfect Dark CG trailer. So I am really hype for the overall production of this game showcase. That being said, I mean 90 minutes, it did go a little bit too long during the middle, I find, but top to bottom, I still feel like this was one of the strongest that we've seen this year.
The one thing I will kind of add to that, you made really great points. I also, after time, because being in the theater, you kind of have that E3 experience with fans. But then coming out of it, I did find the exclusive to console, the Game Pass, like those bumpers. It was a little too much. Like I just wanted, yeah, you kind of lose the momentum of like the hype of the previous trailer because then they're stopping you, reminding you Game Pass, and then it starts up again. I think if they just had everything coming to Game Pass, like a section of it, it just would hit a little better.
Or going back to like a year or two ago, I remember there being like an Xbox showcase where in the middle of like the trailers, they would have like the little, like lower third where it'd be like coming day one on Game Pass. I think that's a much better way of like keeping that momentum, but at the same time still keeping that messaging of like, okay, this game and then this game and this game all coming to Game Pass day one.
I wonder if it's sort of like that was building up on, because it was a bit of a meme last year that kind of came out of the showcase where it was like, it became like GIF worthy, where it was like day one on Game Pass. Like it was pretty much almost a lot of those trailers from last year were basically just kind of capped off with that. And I wonder if that was kind of the case. I agree with you. It's kind of almost a little much. Like if you could just say, okay, yeah, everything in this is just going to Game Pass, day one on Game Pass. Like we get it. Like of course, I think it does two things. It does, yes, it does enforce that, yes, like this is coming day one on Game Pass. This is like it's gonna be like you're gonna want to be like, it does prove the value of Game Pass in and of itself, because all these trailers that we're showing you are gonna be there. But also as well, it's like it kind of does sort of, I guess, kind of take away from the momentum of it when you're just like especially how long those bumpers are. Like I felt like it was almost like a second or like a half a second too long, that I feel like that I was like, okay, if it was just kind of like a quick little thing and then it jumps to like something else, it wouldn't have been as noticeable to me.
If we didn't have Steve next to us saying world premiere every time, like I felt like, I would have been sick of it. But thankfully, like Steve made that all the more worth it.
Elevated it for sure.
Exactly.
I'm here to serve.
It was a good showcase. And I'll say this much. When I was stepping out of the theater after we had watched it, I was like, I don't really know how I feel about that, because I agree. Like, it was nice that they mentioned that everything was coming out within the year, but maybe it would have been better to set those expectations from the jump, like before we were going into the showcase, to be like, hey, we're going to show you all the things that are coming out in the next 12 months for Xbox.
Yeah.
Then when you're going in, you're like, oh my God, I can't wait. Like, then when you're going in, people aren't going to say Fable, or like wild guesses like Gears 6 or something
or
like that.
Avowed or anything,
or Avowed. We would have just been sitting there like, okay, well, what's potentially on the way in the next 12 months? Let's look forward to that.
You're right.
That's a good point.
So I think what they did was smart. It's just that maybe like setting that expectation the same way when PlayStation does a state of play, they're like, hey, this is not going to be what's coming in the future. You know,
You're not saying God of War, like calm down.
PSVR 2 and this and that, right?
Yeah.
They always like to set those expectations. And I think because of that, when you get surprises like a Spider-Man on PC or Resident Evil 4, it's like, whoa, like I couldn't have guessed that, you know?
Yeah.
So, but overall, when I stepped out, that was my initial feeling. I wasn't sure how to feel about it. But then when we sat there and we made that video that we did at the event, and I was going over some of the things, I was like, there were actually some really cool games that they showed. You know, High on Life looks awesome. Scorn looks really cool.
So cool.
Insanely like
gross is all
creepy
hell, but I'm like,
gross,
okay, yeah.
but like interesting. So I'm very interested in that game. And then of course, like Starfield brought the thunder. Like we all knew for sure at the very least that we were going to get something big for Starfield, and they really brought the roof down. I mean, that whole moment of them saying, here are the planets, the size of the planets that you can explore. Here's the solar system. And for me, I was like, oh, we get a whole solar system? Yeah. And then he was like, and here's all the galaxies. And I was like, what? Like, where did that come from? So that really blew me away, honestly. And the customization with the ships, the fact that there's like a hub area, everything about Starfield, even though I'm not the biggest fan of Bethesda games and I wasn't really into games like Fallout or never really got into games like, you know, Skyrim, but Starfield looks like I have to play it. You know? Yeah. And so because of that, like I will say it was a good showcase. It didn't blow the roof off the place. And in all honesty, if we're talking overall E3, I think the strongest thing we've gotten so far is that PlayStation State of Play.
Oh, interesting.
But it was a good showcase. You know, like there wasn't a moment where I was sitting there like feeling bored. There wasn't a moment where I was like, you know, we need this is time for the pee break, you know, like there wasn't anything like that. I felt like I needed to be there. I always felt the need, like I got to stick around. I can't go anywhere because who knows what's around the corner. Yeah. And then of course the Kojima reveal was huge. You know, that's definitely not the next year of Xbox. That was definitely the one where they're like, okay, we'll give you one big surprise.
Yeah.
And that was huge.
And I think, you know, when we look at the showcase and the power of these, you know, what the purpose of these showcases are, like Xbox made it clear when the Series X launched, they're not in the business of just trying to sell consoles. They're in the business of growing their brand and making gaming more accessible. And I think the showcase really showed that. Off the top, you have this whole reveal that Riot's doing this collab for Game Pass where
pretty huge.
League of Legends and a whole crap of other games are going to be available on Game Pass for PC.
Yes.
This not only just helps get those PC users on, but also gets them on maybe cloud gaming, because you can hop in to a very easy like game on the Rift, on Summoner's Rift, with friends, and then just play on the go. Like I believe in the trailer for their Riot collab, they actually had someone playing on the phone. So they're making it clear what they're hoping these partnerships mean to them. Then they have the Persona 5 Royale, which it's like that is huge. You know, Phil fulfilled the promises of trying to get the Japanese audience that usually skews more PlayStation, you know, on the side of Xbox. And I think that really does help with them as a brand. And like the Kojima thing as well, like so good. I also the fact that Kojima's like Phil Spencer's just like will be working with Xbox Studios.
Yes.
Like I really do feel like it's just not one-off. Whether he's consulting on some other projects that Xbox may be coming out with, I think it may be a long-term relationship.
Right.
Given, you know, we know that Death Stranding 2, which Caboose is so excited about, is in the works. That is coming, right? Those rumors are out, and they've almost been
Woohoo.
confirmed.
I mean,
So-
Norman
That eye
Reedus
roll,
is-
that eye roll.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not officially
You're just-
confirmed, but
like,
it's
yeah,
like
I'm doing it.
confirmed.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's confirmed by the main actor. How they're gonna do that, where they're gonna
Yeah.
go with the story, that's still to be told. But
For
I
sure.
don't think that will necessarily cut off Kojima's relationships with PlayStation, which is good. Like Xbox has always been a supporter of like games that shake things up. Death Stranding was definitely one of them, and they were a support of that, maybe because they were trying to create this relationship, but it worked for them, right? So I think that's really good. The fact that we're getting Starfield, which let me say, yes, it's amazing, like because it's highly anticipated. Yeah, we all know that. Fans love it. Sci-fi nerds will geek out. But remember a game called Beyond Good and Evil that Ubisoft
Yeah.
teased
all those
years
years
ago,
Yeah.
and it was like all about like you're gonna be able to go through different or different planets and like
Yep.
explore. And I got hyped because I got to see what year was that? Was it 20?
It was like
I wanna say
2018.
2018,
Yeah.
right? 2018 they had a closed door, or was 2018 was the announcement, and then 2019 no
Cinematic trailer was 2018.
2018,
Yeah, and then
I think that's
2019,
when
I
they had
think they had like Joseph Gordon-Levitt and his hit record
Yeah.
collaboration. I think that was 2019.
Yeah, so I think they had 2019 was the year they had media behind the closed door demo.
Yeah.
And it showed pretty much that Starfield thing where it's like, this is where you could start off in a city. You could go out and you see like this area, and you could visit all these different parts on this planet. Then you could zoom out even further, and you could even visit all of these planets and keep going from there. And they were really pushing that hard, from my memory of being in those demos. And it's like Starfield, if this actually works how they're saying it's supposed to work and how we're thinking it's supposed to work,
Yeah.
I honestly think that charm of Beyond Good and Evil will be lost. And I think that right there is an example of why you should focus on titles that are within reach for fans.
Yeah.
Because
Oh, for sure.
you're not amping them up just to let them down because someone else is going to beat you to the race, right? So this showcase really was just not like good for fans, but just good for Xbox as a brand to say, look, we are here and we're making moves.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think I agree with you wholeheartedly on that one, because it's like it's good to be able to know what's coming up in the next few years, but it's kind of hard to be able to get the excitement back from the first initial announcement. Like everyone, because then that's going to be the thing that's going to have to carry forward up until you're ready to finally be able to talk about it. Like because everyone at the that I talked to at the event yesterday was like, before it happened, was hopefully we'll see Fable. Hopefully we got to see Fable. And it's like,
Yeah.
sure. Okay. It was announced last year, but it was a CG trailer. We are nowhere near being able to see anything close to what Fable is going to look like and play like. And because of the focus of it being in the next 12 months, and also the focus on just showing gameplay more than CG trailers, I think that I think kind of going back to what you were saying earlier was that if you were able to kind of like temper expectations by saying, here's what's coming in the next 12 months, I think that probably would have been a much more, it would have been seen as a much more stronger showcase in a lot of fans' eyes, because then they're not having to if a Fable gets announced saying it's coming out in the next 12 months, that's awesome. But if it's not there, we already knew, okay, well, it's not coming out within a year, so it's going to be a little bit. And it would have kind of tempered the expectations as PlayStation and Nintendo have done in the past. Xbox isn't really kind of known for a lot of that, except for some of the smaller sort of showcase things that they will show off. But not, like, usually around E3, it's like they're kind of very like anything's on the table as far as they're concerned. Like whatever, like they're always going to have like kind of like big sort of announcements to a certain degree. I think the pandemic kind of really had a huge part in a lot of the planning of it. Because you also have to think too, like, the Xbox Bethesda Showcase was the first official announced event for E3 / non E3 week.
Yeah.
So they had already been planning this for a while, and then I think like kind of thinking with that lens, and then thinking the pandemic and also all that, I was like, okay, it would make sense to be able to try to show what's coming up in the next little bit. And even with the fact that they showed Starfield, we knew they were going to show Starfield, because imagine what the Starfield a gameplay would have felt like if they were able to keep the November release date. People would have been losing their minds even more so, knowing they were going to play that in like less than 6 months.
Yeah. Part of me hopes that they can kind of look at this and keep this kind of track record, because in that same thought, like if Starfield was to come out on November 11th, maintain that release date and everything after this kind of showcase, that would have been incredible. And I was just like brought back to how Bethesda revealed Fallout 4, where they were like at E3 and they're like, oh yeah, and it's coming this year. Like, could you just imagine if the Xbox had like the willpower and the threshold to be like, every E3 is kind of going to be modeled after these 12-month windows where let's just get to a point where, I don't know, like 2024 something, they're like, oh yeah, here's gameplay of Fable and it's out September. Like, you don't hear about
honestly, I kind of like that announcement better.
Me
like
too,
it's because it feels like, oh my god, like that's coming out soon. Like I could play this, and if you like, I kind of almost wish that announcements could be that way, because it's like, okay,
well, there were a few games that were like that for the showcase that we just watched too, because again, having them say like that 12-month statement, when I see games like High on Life or I see games like Scorn, I'm like, oh, like within a calendar year, those games are in my hands. Like that's exciting to me, you know. And so I agree. If they were to keep this concept going forward, I think just as long as they're transparent from the jump and they say, hey, listen, this is what we're doing, then people will be more understanding. Because the reason why, if we're going to talk about the scope of the quote unquote E3 of this year, for me, the reason why the state of play was the strongest is, first of all, quick, nice, easy to digest 30-minute show. And then second of all, I remember when we watched it live, I was like, you know, it seems like everything they've shown here is coming out within a minimum of 1 year, you know, barring maybe something like Street Fighter 6. But besides that, which is summer, right? So besides that, you know, Resident Evil 4 is on the way. You know, Street Fighter 6 is on the way. Spider-Man on PC is in 2 months. You know, there's a lot of like really exciting things that are on the horizon that are coming sooner than we think. And that's why that state of play to me was so surprising, because I went in not even knowing that that was the plan, that that's what they wanted to do. But it ended up being that these games were coming out so incredibly soon, and there were really exciting announcements too. So like for me, if we're talking about winners or losers, not that it really matters, because at the end of the day, we, the ones buying the games and playing the games, are the ones winning. But if we're talking who I think had the strongest outing for this E3, it still goes to PlayStation State of Play for me, because it was very strong. Like I really enjoyed it, and there's a lot that I look forward to from that State of Play. The same goes for the Xbox Showcase. It's just that it was a little longer, and I feel like we can't do this without talking about Forza Motorsport. Because I get that those games are like, oh my god, the Hot Wheels thing.
That was dope.
So much fun for Forza Horizon. But Forza Motorsport, like we know that these games kind of act as tech demos to show off the power of the console. But my goodness, Forza Motorsport looks insane.
Yes.
They just pull back like seamlessly, and they're like, here is
unbelievable.
Here are the cracks in the pavement. Here are the flowers.
And now we're going to jump in and the day and night. And
it was like a one-shotter. It was like, it wasn't even edited like a cut. It was a one-shotter. Like that was...
While they're doing it, I leaned over to Caboose. I was like, all of this is so unnecessary.
It is. It absolutely is. I'm never gonna look at the cracks in the pavement ever in my life.
It's so unnecessary, but also very necessary to be able to show
It's beautiful.
Exactly. Like it's such a flex. And I love that for that franchise, because it is at the end of the day kind of like this tech demo, like this playable, expansive tech demo, but it
Yeah.
is just a proving ground for just the power of like the Xbox Series X S,
Right.
and then even their PC initiatives at this point. And yeah, just having that and knowing that, you know, players can jump in, even if you're not a racing fan, like you can just jump in, experience this, and just be like, just take it all in. Like it's just motorsport definitely is not the two, like the side of Forza that I'm always excited for. I'm usually like a Horizon player, but I always just love jumping into motorsport simply because the tech is incredible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
I will. So what would be like that surprise for you from the showcase, other than like, you know, the big one, Kojima, because obviously
Mhm.
Goose loves that so much.
For sure.
Because for me, it's definitely Finlock, because when I saw
Oh.
Oh,
Finlock,
yeah.
I was like, is this like a Assassin's Creed ripoff or something? And then like they just went into the gameplay and it was just so smooth, and how you use your weapons and how the protagonist carries an axe. I just love that close combat. So for you, what would be, you know, that surprise that like delighted you?
I've talked a lot about High on Life, but A Plague Tale also like really hooked me with the gameplay, because I mean the first Plague Tale is like, it's a solid game, but like me being bad at stealth games and it being pretty much entirely a stealth game was like, I don't know how into this I could get. But the new game, like they showed off combat, they showed off that you can like, there was like a moment where she tossed a dude into the rats, and I was like, oh my god, this is like a brutal game. And so honestly, like I am very in to what they're doing and the way that they're kind of expanding on the gameplay and the mechanics in this new Plague Tale, and it looks extremely pretty.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
For me, it's an easy one. It was Silk Song. This is a game I've been waiting literal like years at this point. I think like 5 years it's been since the original Hollow Knight came out. And when they first announced the game, it was supposed to just be like a DLC for Hollow Knight, and it turned into this standalone experience. But at the time, they said that, hey, we're just developing this for Nintendo Switch and PC. I was like, cool. I loved playing Hollow Knight on Nintendo Switch. It was a perfect travel game for me, and I was just excited for that. So every direct, I was always like, oh yeah, Nintendo's just gonna at some point announce it when Team Cherry is ready to. Had no idea that they would come out to the Xbox Game Showcase, show it off, and it being day one on Game Pass as well. Like that was just a delight. And yeah, that was a pop-off moment for me. Like following that up with Redfall was like a 1-2 punch for me. I was like, yes, they are starting incredibly strong.
Redfall looks great as well.
Yeah, Redfall does look good.
So good.
Yeah. As far as surprises for me, to be honest, like there was some cool stuff in there, and but it was nothing that kind of like took me aback as like, oh, like I think probably maybe I don't know, like I was gonna say Kojima, but then I was like, well, we kind of had already knew that was potentially gonna happen, and now seeing confirmed with that, I think probably the one that it's more likely that it's like I'm not gonna be able to play. I'm probably not gonna play these games. But the Persona announcement, like I think that to me, I was like, oh, Xbox is still playing like they're in a completely different ballpark than everyone else is. Like everyone was kind of thinking that when they bought Bethesda, and now that they're buying Activision, it's like Xbox has been kind of making these big bold moves. Now, granted, I think actually there was a story today that they said that the Persona those three games are going to be coming to Steam and PlayStation 5, so it's not going to be a complete Xbox exclusive. But the fact they were able to announce it on the Xbox stage was still pretty huge, and it's coming to Xbox, a completely different platform than everyone thought it was going to be a PlayStation exclusive forever.
Exactly. I don't think it was about like retaining, you know, the exclusivity or bringing like it over to just like, I think it's more so just having it for the players and being like, no, we're determined to, you know, cater towards like a Japanese audience, bring Japanese games over
exactly
to, you know, North America, like a North America focus. So that's definitely a huge surprise.
I think say another. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Steve.
No, I say like I think the last thing is I think probably the surprise, honestly, for me, and then I know everyone's talked about it ad nauseum at this point, for me was Starfield. Like, to be honest, I have not looked forward to like a major release in a long time. Like, sure, there are games I definitely am excited to play, but there's not one that I'm like, I will pour over every video, screenshot, whatever. like I have been with Starfield.
Yeah.
Even with knowing no gameplay whatsoever before yesterday, I was just like, I was like, okay, I know I'm going to see something Starfield. Like, I just want to like, just like if it can even just excite me a little bit, then I'm like, okay, good. I know that I'm going to be playing that for sure the next year. And it's seeing that, I was just like, yeah, it just
confirmed everything
it
that you
kind of did. Yeah.
I will say, like, although Starfield definitely the standout for me in the showcase, I was a little bit concerned with the I think I mentioned to you three that I was concerned with the air combat,
Sure.
like
Yeah.
when you're in ships
Sure.
and how it kind of looked stiff. But again, like I feel like no game really gets it right.
No,
So
I don't think it's kind of hard to do
even
that.
if it's not that great, I'd be okay with that. I'd be okay with that. But what I was gonna say is another surprise was the fact we didn't see anything Studio MDHR, like nothing Cuphead.
Sure. Nothing.
I
Yeah, that's
thought,
true.
like Cuphead was that standout, success story. I feel for the Xbox in terms of like a small indie studio making it big. So I thought we would have got like another look. I'm pretty sure in the extended showcase. Hopefully we will. But I was really surprised. I was hoping they would have had one secret like up their sleeve that they could reveal for that game. But saying that, what would be we talked about Caboose mentioned like he wished that Xbox kind of set that expectation before going into the showcase, and we all had our like expectations or hopes of what we would see. Fable
I mean,
was
I was
one of
gonna
them for
guess
me.
when they were
Yeah.
asking the crowd, I was gonna guess like my tinfoil hat for Gear 6. I was gonna be like,
Yeah.
maybe they'll
Yeah.
just like do the
Yeah.
CGI like it's happening thing,
Yeah.
you know?
So like so for you, like for me it's Fable. I was disappointed. I even though I know that game is like nowhere to be. Fable and GoldenEye, I was like, I know like we're not going to see Fable, but it would have just a little mention here, a little something there, a little concept artwork
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
And then GoldenEye I was really hoping for. So like what would be that disappointment for you? Caboose, let's start with you because you mentioned Gear 6.
What you're saying, like what would be
That the game or announcement that you were hoping for that didn't make
that
that big.
didn't end up happening? I mean, especially for the Xbox showcase, I think everyone wanted to like hear something about Fable. I really wasn't buying into it, and then I know Marissa, who was hosting, was saying like maybe something for the next Elder Scrolls, which I was like, no shot.
No.
But I don't think I had any like out there expectations that I was like, this better happen. I really hope this happens or anything like that. So I wasn't entirely disappointed off the fact that there was something I wanted that I didn't get. Like, again, my tinfoil hat theory was going to be like, maybe they were going to announce Gear 6 just to simply say it's happening.
Yeah.
But I wasn't going to sit there and be like, oh, I really hope it happens. You know, the only reason I was going into that with high expectations was because I wasn't aware they were going to do the 1 year time frame. And I was wondering what was potentially coming down the road. So the fact that they did it the way that they did is fine. It just maybe would have been better that they announced that from the get-go. So there isn't one particular thing I was disappointed that they didn't do, but I think as a whole, I wish I had set my expectations going in.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, let's just kind of like to go a broader picture now. Like, obviously, we've had a few of the showcases that we watched. Like, even I know we didn't get a chance to sort of like to react to the Devolver digital countdown to marketing showcase, or any of like the Guerrilla Collective or the Wholesome Games, or any of the kind of the smaller showcases that were happening. But we did sort of focus on the big three. Aaron, you said that the state of play was kind of like your standout. But Camille and Steve, I want to know which of the showcases was the one that was like that spoke to you the most out of this sort of E3 / non E3 time. Steve, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I'll keep it short and sweet because I have to jump off soon. But for me, I think out of them all, I think Devolver really had a few really great announcements there. I think, to be honest, out of all the showcases and everything, one of the strongest games there was in Devolver's, which was the Plucky Squire. I don't know if you guys have caught the trailer for this. One of the coolest looking games I think I've seen in years. It almost harkens back to like original like 2D Mario games and stuff like that. It has like a really interesting art style. So
Sweet.
I think out of There are some really great surprises outside of like the big ones that we've covered. And to be honest, I think Devolver always nails it in terms of like their tone piece. But yeah, I'll pass it off to you, Camille.
I'll make it quick. I'll say Xbox for me. I was a little disappointed that we just didn't get like a really big surprise for the PlayStation State of Play. I get the PC thing. Yes, I get it. But as a person who doesn't play on PC that often, it just didn't hit me the same way as it does hit PC fans. Although it looks gorgeous.
Yeah, I'm with you, Camille. I think probably the Xbox is the one that stood out to me the most. I think out of the three main showcases, Xbox had the strongest one. I agree with you, like Aaron, in the sense that like for the 30 minutes that Sony showed, even though there wasn't a lot of like PlayStation Studio specific games, it was like it definitely was a well-rounded showcase. I think the fact that they had that short 30 minutes that they had some really, really good ones in there. It was paced really well. But I think for me, as far as overall, I think Xbox kind of had the stronger showcase because it had a lot that was going for it that kind of checks off a lot of lists from me as far as like anything E3 related.
It was focused too. It was just like this is what you could play in 12 months, and even the big title too. We didn't get the big title from PlayStation because it wasn't focusing on the PlayStation exclusives. But it's by now I should have seen something about God of War.
Yeah. So before we let you all go, I know Steve, we got to do it quickly. So we'll start off with you. If you had to give a friends rating to this whole E3 slash this whole E3 2022, how many friends out of 5 would you give this?
Overall, I'd say 3 out of 5 friends. There were few stinkers, but a few really heavy ones with like the Xbox, Devolver Digital, PlayStation State of Play that really leveraged it. But I would say I'm tempering it in the middle at 3. 3 out of 5 friends.
Cool. Caboose?
I love that.
Yeah, I think a solid 3 out of 5 friends is where I'm gonna put it at as well. It was good, not amazing, but not bad either.
I'm gonna go with 3 as well. It's the friend that shows up. They just, are doing their part, but they may not go the extra mile.
Yeah. I'm a solid 3. It's not like a standout like party, as it were. But you know what? It's good times with good friends, and that's kind of where I'm going. So yeah, I'm on consensus 3 out of 5 friends as well. So cool. Well, thanks so much for everyone for watching. We'll kind of come back. If the Nintendo Direct comes out, we'll hopefully try to be able to stream that or at least react to that as best we can. If not, then hey, if maybe Sony actually does a State of Play sometime this summer, we may bring the friends back and talk about that as well. So if you have any questions or comments, what you think was the standout game that you liked, what was the surprise, which showcase you liked, leave it in the comments down below. And also leave all the follow links and all that for Camille, Steve, and Aaron as well in the description. So thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you. We'll just be a few friends chatting about E3 sometime soon.
Live next year
for sure. Hopefully in person at live from E3. All right. Take care, everyone.